She didn't plan to be out late. It's a winter afternoon in Gunpo, and An, a 19-year-old student, often reported as 20 in Korean press, heads toward the Gunpo Public Health Center bus stop, the kind of local transfer point you don't think twice about. From there, the route home should be simple. A short walk towards Route 47 and her neighborhood. But somewhere near the shelter, she slips out of the city's rhythm. Her phone powers off later that day near Gyeonggi, Ansan, and that evening 700,000 won is withdrawn in Songpo-dong. CCTV catches a man at the ATM in a wig, and later coverage notes he had his fingers sheathed to avoid leaving prints, a touch too careful for a one-off. The hours pass, and An does not return. At home, her parents begin to worry. Late that night, they go to the Sanbon police station and file a missing person report. In the days that follow, they issue a public appeal. Return our daughter, and we will forgive everything. The case shifts from quiet searches to a public investigation. Detectives build a corridor, the Gunpo Public Health Center stop, Gyeonggi, phone off, Songpo-dong, ATM. They stand up a command post and start pulling footage, about 310 CCTV cameras across roughly 6 kilometers, and overlay phone activity. In the afternoon window when she vanished, more than 7,000 vehicles pass through. One keeps appearing, a black Hyundai Equus. On 24th January 2009, after that Equus is found burned, police arrest Kang Ho-sun, a 39-year-old man working as a masseur in Ansan. They obtain a court search warrant, then forensically examine his computer. The exam shows he has reinstalled the operating system several times and rolled the PC's clock back to January 2007. Under the same warrant, officers also search his car and clothing and find a jacket with a pinprick blood stain. DNA matches a 48-year-old woman missing since November 2008. After overnight questioning, he'd been denying everything and repeating, "Bring me the evidence." He finally says, "I did it." He then gives a point-by-point account. The approach at the Gunpo Public Health Center stop, the strangling, the burial in a rice paddy. Once he admits the first, detectives press him on the string of missing women cases they've already connected by time, place, and method. He admits additional killings and leads teams to graves in Hwaseong, Ansan, Suwon during official crime scene reenactments in late January and early February 2009. In materials aired years later, interrogation footage shows him calmly adding details and even referencing an additional victim. But the legal case has always centered on the 10 murders he was charged with and convicted of. The modus operandi is consistent. Women approached near bus stops or nightlife streets, taken by car, sexually assaulted, strangled, often with stockings, and buried shallow, with fingernails clipped to strip trace DNA. Those specifics move the case from a single disappearance to a clear, linked series. Police reopen the 2005 house fire that killed his wife and mother-in-law, signaling that every corner of his life is now evidence. October 30th, 2005, Bonodong, Sangnok-gu, Ansan. Before dawn, a sudden blaze jolts a quiet street awake. Neighbors dial 119. Firefighters and police converge on the house. When the smoke clears, 2 women are gone, a 29-year-old and her 60-year-old mother, Kang Ho-sun's 4th wife and mother-in-law. That morning, it reads as tragedy. 3 years later, as a string of disappearances aligns, prosecutors read it differently. Arson set for insurance money. At first, Kang denies setting that fire. In court, he concedes the serial murders, but pushes back on the arson. Prosecutors answer with motive and pattern. Multiple policies taken out in his wife's name, payouts arriving in 2007, a man already practiced in squeezing money out of fires, crashes, and claims. The denial doesn't hold. The charge stays. Later rulings affirm the conviction for killing both women by arson. The money trail has length. Years before the fire, Kang had learned how flames and metal could be turned into cash. Records and broadcast reports show repeated insurance events. A truck fire 1 month, a guardrail crash the next, a vehicle fire, then a vehicle theft. Later, a shop fire and a rollover that kept him hospitalized long enough to trigger payments. By one televised count, he had joined dozens of policies, life and accident, and collected large sums from 1998 to 2000, then again after the 2005 fire. The pattern wasn't subtle, it was simply tolerated. He learned a trick the industry has a term for: policy shopping. Sign up for many similar policies across different companies. When something goes wrong, the money doesn't arrive once, it arrives again and again. The Korea Economic Daily tallies 25 policies, 8 incidents, and about 725 million Korean won, approximately 550,000 US dollars, paid to Kang since 1998. 560 million Korean won from fires alone. Examples include 1998-99, 2 dump truck fires, about 3 million Korean won and 20 million Korean won. 1999, claimed truck theft after a fire, about 57 million Korean won. 2000, restaurant, Sunday shop fire, about 36 million Korean won. October 2000, rollover in a small Tico car. Payouts from 13 insurers totaling about 51 million Korean won. Reports note he often joined policies 1 to 2 months before each accident. And according to the newspaper Jeju Ilbo, he registered the marriage 5 days before the fire, ensuring he, not his wife's family, was the legal beneficiary. What happened inside that house remains mostly in the language of indictments. A pre-dawn blaze. His escape with his son. Neighbors unsure why he didn't shout a clear warning about who was still inside. And later, an insurance windfall under his wife's policies. Across the table, detectives line the incidents up. They aren't guessing, they have records. A dump truck fire with money attached. Another vehicle that goes up. A rollover that inexplicably leads to many insurers paying at once. A small shop fire. Then the house, with 2 women who do not step back into the cold air. The sums on the page aren't abstract anymore. They are motive, something concrete the law can name and the court can sentence. The ATM withdrawal with a teenager's card shows preparation, a wig, covered fingers, a willingness to stage. The burned equus shows cleanup, another fire, another attempt to erase a chain of actions. The reformatted computer, the rolled back clock, paperwork tricks applied to machines, meant to move the dots on a timeline. None of these acts is new for him, only the stakes are. By the early 2000s, he has a reputation among friends for a certain swagger. He boasts that one big insurance scam can fix everything. The details vary by incident, but the pattern doesn't. So who was he when he met his wife? Public records do not fix the exact moment they met, but they make one thing plain. By May 2005, he had married for the 4th time. Friends and reporters would later describe his domestic life as constant motion. Addresses changed 16 times. Marriages made and ended quickly. Charm in public and violence at home. He had 2 sons from his first marriage and another child later. Women described a man who could be attentive and sociable in front of neighbors, then controlling and abusive in private. His work shifted as often as his addresses. After time as a truck driver, he trained in sports massage and worked at a shop in Arson around the mid-2000s, an ordinary job that gave him an ordinary mask. To clients, he was polite. To some partners, he was a man who kept secrets, moved quickly, and lied well. And he collected convictions long before the murders surfaced, 9 priors, including sexual violence and theft, and earlier still, a disgraced military discharge after a theft incident that became tabloid shorthand, the soldier who stole a cow. None of that by itself predicted a serial offender. Together, it paints a person already comfortable with deception, rule-breaking, and calculated risk. Why kill his wife and her mother? Prosecutors argued money, and the record supports them. After the fire, insurance paid. After years of lesser accidents, a house was just another asset to be liquidated. It's a blunt explanation, but it fits the documents. And the serial murders that followed? Investigators and profilers described a different engine: control and sexual violence. The ritual of offering rides near bus stops or approaching women from karaoke corridors. The stranglings, the burials, and the cold shift to the next face in the crowd. Kang himself would later be quoted with a line that chills because it does not overreach. "There are days I just want to kill." The cruelty wasn't impulsive. The luring and the cover-ups show planning. There isn't a single moment that explains him. The record shows two tracks that meet. In 2005, a fire the court later calls arson for gain. Then, beginning in 2006, a series of abductions and stranglings built around control. When investigators ask why, his answers shift. In some interviews, he says, "When I saw women, I wanted to kill them." In others, "There are days I just want to kill." Profilers describe psychopathic traits: cool affect, lack of remorse rather than a dramatic life event that flipped a switch. In custody, he doesn't just talk, he walks detectives through it. Over 2 days of on-site reenactments, he retraces the karaoke corridors and bus stop pickups, shows the turnoffs he used to isolate victims, and points to burial spots on the wooded edges of Gyeonggi. Investigators dig where he indicates, and one by one, the ground answers back. It isn't a change of heart. It's what happens when DNA, recovered property, and a stack of matching case files leave no exits but the truth. September 7, 2006, Yeongwol, Gangwon Province. A 23-year-old county office employee vanishes after stepping off at a mountain road stop near Samukje. The case stalls until 2009, when he brings detectives back up that road. Among scrub and stone, they recover weathered remains. It proves his hunting ground wasn't limited to cities. If a ride could be framed as kindness, it was an opportunity. December 14, 2006, Gunpo, Gyeonggi. A 45-year-old karaoke worker finishes a shift. He approaches her first as a customer, then as the driver who offers a lift. Years later, search teams grid off farmland in Hwaseong, Bibongmyeon, and find skeletal remains near the Route 39 corridor. The method matches what will become the pattern: lure, assault, strangulation, often with stockings, and a shallow burial. December 24, 2006, Suwon. A 37-year-old woman leaves the nightlife strip into colder air. She doesn't arrive home. Months later, a hillside near Ansan yields what winter kept. Another short hop made fatal. Isolate, silence, conceal just beyond the lights. January 3, 2007, Hwasong. At a bus stop, a 52-year-old office worker waits with commuter faith. Next bus, then home. He turns that faith into distance. In 2009, he maps the spot for police, Bibongmyeon. January 6, 2007, Anyang. A 37-year-old karaoke worker, ethnic Korean from China, disappears. He later leads police to Gomori, Madomyeon, where a golf facility now sits over the burial ground. Excavation is blocked. News crews, film detectives searching the Link 9 course perimeter for a grave now paved and landscaped. This is the one victim whose remains weren't recovered. January 7, 2007, Suwon. A 21-year-old university student vanishes along her usual corridor. He says ride, and the day folds. He returns with detectives to Gyeomgak-dong, Gwonseon-gu. They exhume what he left and log another match with the same ligature method. November 9, 2008, Suwon. A 48-year-old housewife steps out for a short errand and doesn't come back. In 2009, guided by him, police recover her on a hillside off National Route 42 in Ansan's Sangnok-gu. A pinprick bloodstain on his jacket will lab match to her and become the bridge that carries investigators from suspicion to proof. December 19, 2008, Gunpo. The disappearance that turned scattered cases into one story and gave it a name: Kang Ho-sun. So we stick to what holds up: preparation and repetition, the offer of a ride, the luring near bus stops or nightlife corridors, the concealment that follows. The law can name motive in the arson, but for the later murders it names control and gratification, because that's what the pattern proves. Prosecutors played hours of interview. In 2025, broadcasters even aired segments of the confession tape. The case record, however, still centers on 10 murders, the arson motive for 2, and a court that found him fully responsible. Experts outside court called him a pleasure-type offender with psychopathic traits. The bench didn't see a mental state defense. It saw intent and planning. Sentencing. On 22 April 2009, the bench handed down a death sentence. On 23 July, the High Court upheld it. By 4 August 2009, the sentence was final. There was no Supreme Court appeal. He remains alive on death row in a country that hasn't executed anyone since 1997.